Anjali's life was totally transformed in a single moment, from being poor enough to not have a piece of bread to eat to the queen of all kingdoms in the whole world with a single ring. Want to know her story? Subscribe to the channel and grab your popcorns, my besties. The sun rose slowly over the small village of Andu. Inside a cracked mud hut, a young girl named Anjali opened her eyes. After her parents' tragic death in an accident, she was living alone with her younger brother, Obi. Her little brother coughed, beside her, his body thin and weak. "Don't worry, Obi," she whispered, placing her hand on his head. "Big sister is here." There was no food in the hut, no water, no medicine. But Anjali didn't cry. She picked up her empty clay pot and stepped outside, barefoot. The ground was hot, the path full of sharp stones. Still, she walked to the river. As she passed the market, villagers stared and laughed. "There goes the poor girl again," one woman sneered. "Still wearing that torn wrapper." Another joked. Anjali said nothing. She kept walking, head held high. Then she saw an old man struggling to carry a bundle of firewood. "Baba, let me help," she said softly. She lifted the heavy wood and followed him to his hut. "Thank you, my child," he said. "May the sky remember your kindness." Anjali smiled, then continued to the river. She saw a stray dog, skinny and shaking. From her small bag, she pulled out her last yam. "Here, boy, eat," she whispered, placing it on the ground. The dog wagged its tail. For a moment, it felt like magic. That night, Anjali sat outside her hut. The stars above were bright and silent. She folded her hands and looked up. "Please," she said, her voice shaking. "Just one small blessing. I don't want to be rich. I just want my brother to live. And a little food to share." She didn't know the stars were listening, and they were about to answer her in a way no one could believe. The next morning, Anjali woke up early. Her brother's cough was worse. She picked up the clay pot and set off again. This time to the deeper part of the forest, where the water was cleaner. Birds chirped in the trees. The path was quiet. Suddenly, "Help! Somebody, please!" a woman's voice cried from the bushes. Anjali dropped the pot and ran toward the sound. Behind some thick trees, she found an old woman trapped under a fallen tree branch. Her leg was stuck. Her hands were bleeding. "Hold on!" Anjali shouted. She pushed and pulled with all her strength. The branch was heavy, but she didn't stop. With one final push, the branch rolled off. The old woman gasped and sat up. You saved me," she whispered. Anjali tore a piece of her wrapper and wrapped the woman's leg. "I couldn't leave you here, Mama," she said kindly. The woman looked into her eyes and smiled. "You have a rare heart, child," she said. "Take this." From her pouch, she pulled out a strange, old ring. It was dull gold, with a small red stone in the middle. "This ring," the woman said, "only listens to your true heart. Use it with care." Anjali held it, confused. "A ring?" That night in her hut, she looked at the ring again. She closed her eyes and whispered, I wish for enough food for my brother." Nothing happened. She sighed and went to sleep. But when she woke up, her hut was full of fresh yams, rice, fruits, bread, more food than she had ever seen. She stared in shock. The ring had listened. And this was just the beginning. Anjali sat on the floor, staring at the food that filled every corner of her hut. She blinked, touched the yam, smelled the bread, and even bit into a mango. It was real. "The ring," she whispered. "It's magic." She looked at her brother sleeping beside her. His cough was lighter now, his breathing steady. Her eyes filled with hope. The next day, she tested it again. She held the ring tight and closed her eyes. I wish for my brother to be strong and healthy again. A soft wind passed through the room. In seconds, Obi sat up on the mat, smiling. I'm hungry, Ajali, he said playfully. Ajali gasped. His eyes were bright. His voice was full of life. She hugged him tightly. You're back, little one. But she didn't stop there. I wish for better clothes. Something new. Her old wrapper turned into a soft, colorful gown with fine embroidery. Her feet were no longer bare. She had sandals that fit perfectly. And her hut? It transformed. The cracked walls became smooth and painted. The roof no longer leaked. A soft bed appeared in the corner. Clay pots turned to shiny bowls. Flowers grew by the door. When she walked to the market, people stared again, but this time with wide eyes and soft mouths. That's Ajali, they whispered. She's glowing. Obidike, a flashy trader, noticed her instantly. He walked up, smiling too wide. Ajali, my beauty, he said. You've changed. I always knew you were special. Ajali smiled politely but didn't answer. From behind a tree, Tobechi, the boy who loved her despite her being poor, watched quietly. He didn't smile. Later that night, Ajali sat with the ring in her hand. What else can I become? She stared into the sky. I wish to be the most admired girl in all the villages. The ring warmed in her palm. Her skin became smoother, her eyes brighter, her lips fuller. Her braids grew longer and thicker, her face almost unreal. The next morning, the entire village stopped to watch her walk. They didn't speak. They just stared. And in that silence, a dangerous seed of pride was planted in Ajali's heart. That night, Ajali tossed in her sleep. Her room was no longer a mud hut. It was now a beautiful chamber full of silk and scented oils. But her heart felt heavy. In her dream, the wind howled. A shadow appeared by the river. It was Mama Rina. Her voice was calm but firm. Child, the ring is tied to balance, she warned. Every wish casts a shadow. The more you take, the more it will take back. Ajali frowned. But I'm not hurting anyone. You soon might, Mama Rina said. Greed is a quiet curse. Ajali woke with a gasp, but by morning the dream was forgotten. I wish for gold, she said, gripping the ring. Coins poured into baskets. I wish for servants, she whispered. Men and women appeared, bowing to her. I want power, respect. Soon people greeted her with fear, not love. Obidike stayed close, feeding her dreams. You could build a palace, he said. You could rule. Queens are not born. They're made. Ajali smiled, eyes full of fire. More. She wanted more. But in the shadows, the ring began to glow a deep red, and Mama Rina's voice echoed quietly. Every wish casts a shadow. Ajali stood at the center of her palace, dressed in gold, wearing the ring like a crown. But something inside her had changed. She was no longer gentle. She was no longer kind. She stood tall and cold, her eyes sharper, her voice stronger. I want everyone to respect me. I want no one to question me. I wish to control their minds, she said, holding the ring. A dark wind blew through the palace. The next day, the village was silent. People bowed without speaking. They smiled, but their eyes were empty. When Ajali walked by, they chanted, Long live Queen Ajali! But it wasn't joy. It was fear. Her little brother, Obi, stayed quiet all day. He sat alone in a corner. At night, he whispered, "Sister, I'm scared of you." Ajali frowned. "Why?" "I gave you everything." "But you're not you anymore," he said softly. She turned away, heart pounding. Later, Tobechi came to visit. He walked past the guards without bowing. "You need to stop," he said. "This isn't who you are." Ajali laughed. "You're jealous. Look at me now." "I'm not jealous. I'm heartbroken." He replied, "You were light. Now you bring darkness." Ajali waved her hand. The guards dragged him away. Outside the palace, things began to change. Crops stopped growing. The soil cracked under the sun. Chickens stopped laying eggs. The river shrunk each day, until it became a strip of dry stone. People whispered in secret corners, "The gods are angry." One night, the wind howled louder than ever before. A bright flash lit the sky, and Mama Rina appeared, not in a dream this time, but in person. She stood in Ajali's throne room, her eyes burning like fire. "You turned blessings into poison," she thundered. "You don't understand," Ajali shouted back. "They love me now. They obey you. That is not love," Mama Rina said. Ajali's hands trembled. "Undo it," Mama Rina warned, "or it will undo you." "I can't lose everything," Ajali whispered. "Then everything will lose you." With that, Mama Rina vanished, leaving behind the smell of smoke and a silent ring, now glowing a deep, angry red. And outside the palace walls, thunder rumbled. Ajali stared at the ring on her finger. Mama Rina's warning echoed in her mind. "Undo it, or it will undo you." But pride burned hotter than fear. "I am not just a queen," she said aloud. "I deserve to rule everything." She raised the ring to the sky. "I wish to be queen of all kingdoms." The ring glowed bright red, pulsing like a beating heart. Then, boom! A loud thunder cracked across the sky. The walls of her palace began to shake. The air turned black. Wind roared like a lion. Roofs flew. Trees snapped. People screamed. Obi cried from somewhere in the house. "Ajali! Tobechi!" she called out. "Where are you?" The ground opened. Her palace split apart. The villagers ran in all directions, then vanished. Everything went silent. Ajali opened her eyes. She was no longer in her palace. She was inside a massive golden castle, more beautiful than she ever imagined. Floors of marble, windows of diamond, a throne taller than a tree. She stood up slowly. "Obi?" she called. "Tobechi?" No answer. She ran through every room. Nothing. Not a voice. Not a sound. Not even footsteps. Ajali had become queen of everything. But now she had no one. The golden palace sparkled in the sunlight. But Ajali didn't care. Days passed. She wore the finest gowns. She ate from golden plates. Her throne was taller than any king's. But she never smiled. No footsteps echoed in the halls. No voices called her name. Just silence. One evening she stood by a high window, staring at the empty garden below. Her lips trembled. Her heart ached. "Obi," she whispered. "Tobechi. I would give it all back. I would give everything just to hear your voices again." She fell to her knees. Tears streamed down her face. "Please," she cried to the sky. "Please take it all back. I don't want to be queen. I want my life. My real life." Suddenly, a soft wind blew through the palace. In the middle of the room, Mama Rina appeared. Her eyes were calm, her voice low and steady. Ajali, you must pay the price to restore balance. Ajali looked up. Anything. Tell me what to do. You have one final choice, Mamarina said. Remove the ring and forget it all. The riches, the palace, the power. Or keep it and rule forever, alone. Ajali stared at the ring. Then slowly, she pulled it off. Everything around her began to fade. The gold, the walls, the silence. Ajali opened her eyes. She was lying on the hard floor of her old cracked hut. Sunlight peeked through the broken roof. Her body was sore. Her hands were empty. No gold, no gown, just the sound of soft breathing beside her. She turned her head. Obi, sleeping peacefully. His little hand curled against her arm. Tears filled her eyes. I'm back, she whispered. I'm really back. She stepped outside barefoot again, feeling the cool earth beneath her feet. The village was alive. Children ran past, laughing. Birds sang in the trees. A woman waved at her kindly. A man offered a smile. No one mocked her. No one turned away. They nodded with respect, not for her riches, but for something deeper. A moment later, Tobechi arrived, holding a basket of warm bread. You look like someone who's seen a storm, he joked gently. Ajali laughed, wiping a tear. More than a storm. He handed her the basket. Then let's start fresh. She took it with a smile, heart full. The ring was gone, but her heart was full. She had lost everything. To learn she already had what mattered. What happened with Ajali isn't just a story. It's something many of us go through in real life. Sometimes when we finally get what we always dreamed of, a little success, money, attention, instead of feeling grateful, we want more, and more, and more. We get impressed by the shiny things in life, fame, beauty, power, and in that race, we forget who we really are. Just like Ajali, we start losing the people who truly matter. We forget the simple joys, the small blessings, the real love. But life will always remind us. It teaches us when to stop, because not everything that shines is gold, and not every wish brings happiness. The real magic? Knowing where to stop, knowing when to be thankful. That's the power most people forget. So now let me ask you, my besties, if you had a ring like Ajali's, and you could change only one thing in your life, what would you wish for? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's see how many of us would use that wish wisely.